Hey guys, welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. Glad you stopped by. I'm Brian, Mr. Smith Kitchen, as always. And today for dessert, thought we'd do a bundt cake, a Snickerdoodle bundt cake. And I'm kind of curious about this one. I've never made it before, hands down, as most things on my channel. But it sounded good. But the key ingredient to a Snickerdoodle cookie, which is cream and tartar, isn't in this bad boy. Which I kind of get, I kind of don't get. So, but anyhow, we're gonna find out how well it works, how much it really tastes like a Snickerdoodle. This is your first video, welcome. Glad you stopped by. I hope you check out some of my other videos. If you are returning to my channel, thank you. If you are one of several bazillion new subscribers, at this moment we are at 1,704. Which is, I don't know, 1,200 more than I thought I was going to have by the end of the year, which I'm grateful for. That's awesome. Comments have been rolling in, and I have responded, I think, to every one of them. If I missed you, I am sorry. I hope I at least got you a heart and a thumbs up. But I've been trying really hard to keep up. A lot of comments. But thank you for subscribing, becoming part of the neighborhood. Yeah, it shows me there's a lot of people out there that like to be good neighbors and like to cook and, you know, bake and things of that nature. That being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share. You know, that's important. That's what's been getting us out there. And a lot of you have been sharing, and that's awesome. I appreciate that. But let's keep that train rolling. Let's keep this channel growing. That makes this neighborhood that much bigger. You know, more people that can communicate with each other. I even see people commenting on other people's comments, and it's all been really friendly. It's so awesome. So I will give you your measurements. I will give them to you in cups, tablespoons, teaspoons. I also do grams because that's how I bake, is with grams. Plus, that allows everybody to play along. I don't think there's another form of measurement used in baking, but if there is, let me know. I know there's like a Mark 1, Mark 2 when it comes to heat. Like where your oven, you've got Fahrenheit, Celsius, and then like a Mark 3, Mark 4. I don't know where that they use that at, but they do. I follow a couple people that are over on the other side of the pond, so to speak, who give those measurements out when they're heating up their ovens. So if there's something that goes with that, let me know. That would be awesome. And yeah, so anyhow, bundt cake, Snickerdoodles. No cream and tartar in the bundt cake, and that's what makes this special. What makes the cookies, gives them their taste and their texture. But we'll see. At any rate, so anyhow, let's get down to the counter and let's get this this bundt cake started. All right, hold on for me 1 second. All right, we are down here at the counter. First things we need, what things we need? Need a bundt pan. You need at least a 10-cup bundt pan, which is pretty much a full-size bundt pan. Full-size bundt pans come in 2 sizes. This happens to be a 12-cup. 10-cup, next size down. Looks almost, it has the exact same. The pattern's a little different depending on who you're purchasing off of. All my bundt pans are Nordic ware. This is their 12-cup. I do have a 10-cup, but I really like this bundt pan. I use it all the time. So at least a 10-cup bundt pan, and it's like I said, it's one of their larger pans. But if you have a 12, great. So you'll want to flour that. You want to butter it. Get butter all on the inside. Flour it, or you can use the spray that's got the flour in it. Whatever you use traditionally to do your bundt pans with, or your cake pans. Scale, always helpful. I will try to always mention a scale. Consistency and exactness. Although I do have one thing we'll talk about here in a little bit that I find kind of odd. But anyhow, scale. Yeah, definitely useful if need be. So the first thing we need to do is, this bundt cake is a layer of cake, a layer of like a streusel, which would be representative of the cinnamon topping, the cinnamon sugar topping that goes on top of your Snickerdoodle, and then another layer of the cake. So in my bowl here, I have a half a cup of brown sugar, which is 108 grams. And to that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. That's light brown sugar, but if you want to use dark brown sugar, you could. It's just more flavorful. That's it. It's got a little more molasses in it. So we'll go ahead and put that in there, just like that, and then we'll give that a good mix together. All right, we got that mixed up. Now this is probably the one time in life it doesn't matter if you have lumps in your brown sugar. Now if you've got big clumps in your brown sugar, break those up, but like little clumps, doesn't matter. Yeah, but we got that mixed together at any rate. So the next thing we're gonna do, and I need to grab the recipe real quick because I don't remember exactly the measurements for all the dry goods off the top of my head, is I've got a medium-sized bowl here. I've got a sifter, and in here I have got, 3 cups, 300, and now see here's where I was saying just a second ago that I thought something was kind of odd. All right, this calls for 3 cups of cake flour. They had it written down as 342 grams. Well, a cup of cake flour is 140 grams. That means 3 cups is 420 grams, or 320 grams, not, is that right? No, 420 grams, not 342. So it's 140 grams a cup at any rate. So that'd be what, 280, 320, 420, but this says 342 for cake flour. So it actually has less grams than the cups call for. That being said, I am running with the gram weight that they listed on their site. Sorry, I didn't mean to start shaking that yet. In this cup here, I have 1.5 teaspoons, 6 grams of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of baking soda, and 1/2 teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. And I use kosher salt. We're gonna go ahead and get those in there. And then we will go ahead and we are going to sift this. That way I know there's no lumps in my cake flour. And that's the only reason why I'm doing it. It didn't call for it in the recipe, but you want to make sure everything's nice. Okay, so I went ahead and I got all that sifted in there, and it just looks like white cake flour. And then we're just going to take our whisk real quick. It also took a minute to go ahead and get everything set up here. And we're just gonna make sure everything's whisked together. You know, because you sift it, that doesn't necessarily mean it all fell together, right? So we got that whisked together. So now the next thing we need to do, this actually, you know, like with some cakes you have dry ingredient, and then you have like milk, and then you have your wet ingredients. Well, this is kind of the same thing, only we have a few more things to add to our milk. So in this bowl, excuse me, we are going to combine 1 cup of sour cream, which is 242 grams. We're going to go ahead and get that in there. If you have a fair amount of liquid that's sitting on top of your sour cream because you want it at room temperature, as always, your dairy should be at room temperature unless otherwise noted. But if you have some water sitting on the top of it, that's okay. That's not a big deal. You can mix it back into your sour cream. You can just pour it into the sink, for that matter, or pour it into your bowl. I mean, whichever it takes. And then we are going to add some milk. I'm using whole milk, vitamin D milk, depending on where you're at. And it is 1/3 cup, 80 grams. We're going to put that in there. And then we are going to add 1/4 cup. Sorry for reaching in front of you. I've got it all sitting up here. 1/4 cup, 54 milliliters. I'm sorry, that was 80 milliliters, not grams. Well, it's grams too. 54 milliliters, grams of vegetable oil. We're gonna put that in there. And then, last but not least, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I use baker's vanilla, baking vanilla. That way, the difference between the two is regular vanilla extract. Sometimes when you bake with it, it can lose its flavor. Baking vanilla does not. It's the way it's made. So we'll put that in there. 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of vanilla, and then I'm just gonna take a spoon and we're gonna mix this all together real quick. Okay, we got that mixed together, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but there's still some like sour cream lumps and whatnot in there. It's all right. because I mean we're ultimately going to mix it in there. Now you may ask yourself, why didn't I use that whisk and I used the spoon instead? Well, I used the spoon instead excuse me, because this is a bundt cake. Bundt cakes are traditionally dense, so we want to not have as much air as possible in these. So by using a spoon, minimalizes the air. If I'd used the whisk, it would have started emulsifying and we would have had air build up in there, and it would have just not worked as well. It would work, but it wouldn't work as well in the cake. So we'll set all of that aside. We've got our cinnamon, brown sugar layer, we've got all our dry goods, we've got our milk mix in there. So the last thing we need to do, and you can use the stand mixer or a hand mixer. If you're using a stand mixer, like I am, use your paddle attachment. I've got 2 sticks, 228 grams, 1 cup of unsalted butter. If you have salted butter, that's fine. You can use it. There's no law that says you can't. And what we're going to do is we're going to start creaming this. And as it's creaming, I have got 2 cups, 400 grams of just regular old granulated sugar. Now you might notice mine is not pure white. Mine's just not processed. It's just pure cane sugar, not processed. And while that's on low or stir or 1, I am going to go ahead and start mixing this in. After I get this mixed in, I get it all poured in, I am going to turn this on about 4 medium and 5 if you can get it to go in between, and let this run for about 3 to 5 minutes until it is light and fluffy or mashed potato consistency. Alright, we've been mixing. If need be, and I know I say this in every video, but it's important, scrape down in between, that way you know all your stuff's getting mixed right. Remember, all mixers, including hand mixers with bowls, have dead spots. Little spots that the mixer just can't get to. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a good scrape down right quick, just like such. There we are. Just give it one more shot, make sure we got it all in there good. Everything's incorporated. And if you're wondering what you should look like, that's it, right there. Yeah, now mine's a little darker because I'm using, I didn't use bleached out processed sugar. It's so mine's going to be a little darker, but that's the consistency you're looking for. Whew, that was easy for me to say. And it's like mashed potatoes is the best way to describe it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this back on low, all right? I'll put it on 2, medium low. And I have 3 large eggs, 150 grams worth of eggs. And I'm going to go ahead and drop these in one at a time, and I'll drop the next one in when this one's incorporated and all the yellows blended in. At least on top. So we'll go ahead and give this a quick scrape down again. Always scraping. That just never hurts. I can't emphasize that enough when making a cake. Just like that. Alright, yep, we are good. No yellow streaks. We're nice and incorporated. Now you don't have to over mix it just until you can't see any more yellow. Over mixing it excites the glutens, so to speak. Well, no, it does. It excites the glutens. And if you're not careful, and not to scare anybody that's not made, a lot of cakes, but if you do overbeat it, what happens is it makes your cake turn chewy. Alright, so the next part is we're going to add our dry ingredients and our mix. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our dry ingredients in 3 parts. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn this on low, alright, and I'm going to add about a third, you don't have to be precise, about a third of this into our mixer. As soon as that gets incorporated in, right, and I don't see any more dry, I will put half of my milk mix in. Then I'll go back and put another third of the dry in, then the rest of this, and then the last of the third, or last of the dry. You always want to end on dry. All right, even if you just do 2 parts, like all of this, you know, half of that, all of this, half of that. But I'm doing 3, 2, 3, and 2 instead. So then now I can see that's incorporated. So I'll just go ahead and get half of this put in there, and then I'll repeat. All right. All right. So I don't know if I mentioned it at the beginning of the video. And if I didn't, I'll put something down at the bottom here that at the beginning that'll tell you want to be preheating your oven to 350 degrees. So I got the last of my dry goods in there, all my wets in there. Last thing I need to do is not that, and that is, let's go ahead and get everything scraped down, so that way we know we are truly good and mixed. And then we can pour our cake into the pan. This isn't a hard cake to make at all. It's actually quite simple, and it hasn't seemed to take a lot of time. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Get that scraped off. All right, we get this scraped out, and then we'll move on. Okay, so got everything cleaned up, got that all scraped down. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take about half this batter, 3.5 cups is what she said on the original recipe, and put it in the bottom here, and try not to get it all over the sides. It's okay if you do. Wow, that tastes good. Don't tell anybody, I just licked my finger. So we get that, yeah, that's about half. Get that in there. Get all this scraped out. Alright, there is that. Then we'll go ahead and get this leveled, because what we're going to do next is put our cinnamon sugar on here. So that way we have our layer of cinnamon sugar. Yeah, now, I mean, if you want that layer to be up higher, lower, you know, that's completely up to you. But I will say this has really been a fun cake to make so far. Not hard, that's always nice. Yeah, so we've got our cinnamon sugar, and then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna sprinkle this around try to keep it near the middle, you know, but it doesn't have to be, you know, in the exact middle. We get that in there, like that. Now, I'm not going to use all of this. She didn't say not to, but I'm not going to, and here's why. Because I'm going to sprinkle some of it on the top. Yeah, when it comes out. I like cinnamon sugar. I use it on, I don't know, everything. Toast, mostly. Pancakes, sometimes. But I am going to use a good majority of it. We get that layer in there. Just like that. And then I will finish putting the rest of this batter on top of it. Okay, so we got that in there. Now what we gotta do is just, I'm gonna spread this out with an offset spatula. You can use the back of a spoon, whatever you have available, that rubber spatula that you were just using a second ago, if that's what you were using. And you wanna get it even, you know, at least as close as even to possible. If not, you'll have a Whopper jaw Bundt cake when it comes out. I know I've had it happen a lot. Never by much, which is okay. I mean, you can always even it out by cutting it even, you know, when it's cooled, but, you know, which gives you some to eat before everybody else, if that does happen. I mean, not that I've ever done that, because that would just be rude, but it's a thought. All right, so we've got that good and even. Go ahead and get that off of there. Get that in there in the corner. All right, we got that even. So what do we do next? This is the fun part before we put it in the oven. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna bang it on the counter. The reason why I just did that is to get any air bubbles that may be trapped in it up to the top so they get out. Okay, so we got that done. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get this in the oven and set the timer, and we'll talk about times and what to look for. Hold on for me 1 second. Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. Went ahead and got it in the oven. I opened up the oven door, even though I checked it when I turned it on, and it didn't hit me that the top rack was not in the middle of the oven. It was actually near the top of the oven. And from where I had the last thing I used it for was to broil something. I don't remember what. We broil a lot around here. It's fun, and it gives it such a nice, everything is such a nice charred flavor. But anyhow, I digress. So I had to fix that and got it in there. You want it middle rack, set it on the middle rack. Couple side notes real quick before we talk about times. If you, the reason why we go slow with that thing is, like I said, it's like air. It's very much like a cheesecake. So if you've made cheesecake with me, slow and steady. That will give you a great bundt cake. The other thing is, when you're filling your bundt pan up, if you're not sure of, say like you have more batter than pan, no hot, leave 2/3. You know, you want to go no more than 2/3 up. Leave 1/3 of that pan empty, the top third of that pan empty. If not, because that thing's going to rise as it bakes, and you could have it boil over or bake over or whatever they call it when that happens. It can run out of the pan if you're not careful, which could lead to a colossal mess. So no more than 2/3 full. That being said, 40 to 50 minutes. I'm going to go 45, mostly because I've never made this before. Now they did say in the recipe that it could take longer, but start at 40 to 50 minutes. We'll toothpick test it and talk about what to do next after we toothpick test it. All right, see you here in a second. Okay, so timer just went off. Let's go ahead and get her out of the oven before I shut the oven off. And, go ahead and toothpick test it. Now, I did toothpick test it once at 45 minutes, and it was close, but not quite where it needed to be. So I went ahead and threw it back in for just a few more minutes. And then that way we can take our toothpick, put it in the center. Now you notice I put it in the center of the ring, in the deepest part. And we've come out pretty clean. I mean, it's still got some crumbs on it. It's actually still a little moist. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put that back in there for about another 4 or 5 minutes maybe, because I had the oven door open, so that way, you know, it's got to build back up to temp. But I wanted you to see that it's still, I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but it's still moist. You know, and that we don't want quite that. We want crumbs, but not moisture. That tells me it's not quite done. So we'll go ahead and get that back in the oven, and while that's doing this thing, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do next. But I wanted you to be able to see a toothpick test in case you've never seen one before. So we get the timer back on. We'll do 5 minutes. I'll check it 2-3 minutes from there. So what we're gonna do is, once that toothpick comes out with just a little bit of crumb on it but no moisture, I'll set it on this rack. Then I'm gonna let it sit there for 10 minutes in its pan. After that, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna turn it upside down. And I'm gonna take that pan off of it, right, after 10 minutes, and it should come out clean where we buttered and floured it. Once I get it out of its pan, I'm gonna let it sit here on this rack and I'm gonna let it cool down to room temperature. So when I come back, we'll take a look at it. It should be cooled down to room temperature, or at least close, and we'll make the icing that gets drizzled on top of it, put that on it, put some of that brown sugar cinnamon on it, and try a piece. So I'll see you here in just 1 minute. Our cake cooled down completely. Right there we are, looking beautiful. And all I did was flip it over and pop her out. The only spot that even remotely had any issue at all was right there, and it's not that it's out, it's just, you know, discolored for whatever reason. I'm trying to figure out exactly what that is a clump of. Maybe a little bit of brown sugar and something else, I don't know, but it came clean out of the pan. That is Still, even to this day, one of my worst fears is I'm gonna lose half the top. Now, yours, depending on the color of your pan, if you have a dark Bundt pan like mine, it's gonna come out dark like this. If you have a lighter colored Bundt pan, like the light gray, it will be lighter than this. Don't freak out if that, you look at that and go, well, why does mine look different? That's probably why. All right, so now what we have to do is make the icing and put it on there, and we can try a piece. So in this cup, I have 2 cups, 230 grams worth of confectioner sugar, powdered sugar. And to this, I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla. Go ahead and just dump that in there. This is like one of the easiest icings ever to make. Now, I have 4 tablespoons of whole milk in here, vitamin D milk, which is 60 milliliters. But I'm only gonna start with 3. So I'm gonna put 3 in here, and I will leave 1 milliliter left just in case we need it, in case it's still a little too thick, but I don't know if it's gonna be or not. So we got our 3 tablespoons in there, and then all you do is take a fork and mix it together until it becomes icing. All right, so got that mixed up. I did end up putting in that 4th tablespoon. With the 3 tablespoons, it just wasn't right. See how that's got a nice run to it? That's what I wanted. I wanted it to be pourable because when this icing sits for a little while, it will harden up. So now what we got to do, and there's several ways you can do this. You can use a squeeze bottle if you have one. You can use a spoon and drizzle it on, or scoop it on, or you can do like I'm about to do and just pour it on. Now, if I don't use all of it, that's fine. I don't need to absolutely use all of it. I can just put the rest of it in a container and put it on pancakes or over apple pie biscuits or something to that extent. So we got that going on. Snickerdoodle Bundt cake. I know. All right, we got our icing on there and looking presentable. And like I said, if you don't use it all, that's okay. I didn't use all of mine, but not a big deal. We can take it later on down the road, and now let's say you didn't want it quite like that, and I'm sure you can see that it's puddling right there. So what you can do is, like here in the center where that extra icing is, just grab a spoon and we can set it out just like such. And if you have it on a big enough plate, which I don't, you can just as easily grab it from down here and do the same thing. Bring it up and just let it slide back down and work it that way. Like I said, it'll start to harden, and it does not take long at all, which is good. I mean, it's kind of what you want it to do. That way you have a nice glazed icing on top of your cake. So now that we've got that on there, the last thing I want to do is, remember that cinnamon sugar I saved from earlier? I'm just going to take a little bit of that and sprinkle it along the top, just like such. I have a feeling this would go really good, not only as a dessert, but like breakfast with a cup of coffee. Yeah, that nice bitterness of a good coffee with the sweetness of what I believe is the sweetness of this cake. It screams not real healthy at any rate. I'm feeling, if you're on a diet, this may not be for you, but it's okay to splurge every once in a while. Remember, we're not making this to eat all by ourselves. We're making this to eat with other people, with friends, with family, with a neighbor. But there we are. There is our Snickerdoodle Bundt cake. I think that looks fabulous. I don't know about you. So now we're going to try a piece, because I'm not going to wait till that hardens. Pisha. So I will go ahead, get my knife, get my plate, and I'm not gonna have a big piece. Where I've had work done on the old mouth the last few days and haven't really been able to eat a whole lot. My appetite, although in my mind has been great, my stomach reminds me that I can't really eat that much, which is okay. So I'll just use this small piece here as a guide, but I want you to see that. Now if I was getting a bigger piece, I would have been able to stand it upright, but I probably still could, really. Oh, nah. Alright, so anyhow, right there is our cinnamon. I mean, if you look, even on that side, it came through a little better, right? You know, it's not going to be perfectly even. And let's say you felt like you didn't get enough icing on that. Since we're pouring it fresh, we can just take some and put it on there, just like such. I mean, that's another thing. With the extra icing you have, you could easily put that in a small bowl when you go to serve. And that way your company, your friends, your family, neighbors, although your neighbors are probably your friends too if they're coming over, can put a little more on there if they want to, right? I mean, that would be the neighborly thing to do. So, let me get a fork. Bring you up so I can see you a little better, because I like to look at you in the face. It's rude if you're talking most of the time, you know, especially when you're talking specifically to somebody, to not look them in the face. You don't want to, you know, it'd be rude for me to sit here but facing the plate talking to you, right? So anyhow, let's give this a try and see how it turned out. That is really good. I don't know if I'd say, I mean, yeah, it tastes like a Snickerdoodle, but it almost tastes more like a coffee cake, in my opinion. I think the lack of cream of tartar takes away from it. But it's a fabulous cake. It's tender in the center. It's got a nice density. It's moist. The icing is awesome. I mean, it's sugar. You can't go wrong with just sugar and milk. And that just that little line of cinnamon inside of it with the brown sugar on top gives it a nice balance. I would make this again. I probably will make this again. The only thing I would do to it is add about a half a teaspoon or 2 grams of cream of tartar. So if you got the Snickerdoodle video a couple weeks back, I explained, and I won't take long on this, I promise. I explained what cream of tartar does. A, it adds tartness to it, hence the cream of tartar. B, it keeps the flour and or not the flour, but the sugar from cooking all the way, which in a Snickerdoodle leads to a slightly crispy edge, but the rest of it being soft. So I think if we put that in here, you know, your cake is still going to form its crust line because it gets that slightly crispy crust like a cookie. But I think it would at most give it that tartness that we need to make it taste like a true Snickerdoodle. But that's it. That's the only thing I would do different, is add a half a teaspoon of cream of tartar, and I'm going to write that in the book so that way I know for the next time I make this. But for sure, give this a try. Nobody's going to be disappointed. That is a good, solid tasting Bundt cake. Hands down. Now, this should keep for a couple, 3 or 4 days. At least 3 or 4 days, if it lasts that long. In my house, it won't, and if I take it to work on Friday, it won't make it an hour. You don't have to refrigerate it. Just keep it covered. I have a cake container to put it in, but if you don't, if you have a big enough bowl, you can sit a big bowl over that. We do that here sometimes. Or once that icing dries, or in this case looks like soaks in, you can just put wrap over it, some plastic wrap over it, you know, or some foil for that matter. Because once that icing dries, nothing's going to come off onto your plastic wrap or foil. So, but anyhow, 3 or 4 days. Give this a try. Let me know what you think. You know, or if you have a recipe similar to it, let me know. You know, what do you do? Or do you have one? And what kind of bundt cakes do you like? There's a million and one opportunities for conversation, a small conversation at any rate, about this bundt cake or bundt cakes that you like. Next week, I don't really know what we're doing for dinner, so to speak. I have a couple videos saved back. One is a loaded baked potato side dish, and the other one is a roasted red pepper dip. I may let one of those roll out for dinner, only because next week is Thanksgiving, and next week's also a very busy week for us. I've got pies, pumpkin rolls to make for people for Thanksgiving Day, plus my own pies to make for our Thanksgiving Day. And Thanksgiving is the one day of the year that we do one holiday we do a huge spread. I really like to have that kind of like Norman Rockwell Hallmark dinner setting. That's just my preference. So I'll probably do that, and then of course Thursday is Thanksgiving Day, and I may just put out something that kind of shows what all I was doing while I was making pies and, you know, pumpkin rolls and cooking for Thanksgiving. It's hard to say, but either way it goes. Or I may just jump on and say Happy Thanksgiving. But yeah, there will be something on Thursday at any rate. So Wednesday, not sure yet. Thursday, not sure yet. As always, I never know what I'm doing the next week as far as videos go, but that's okay because I know either way it goes, we're gonna get to hang out together, cook something or bake something that's really cool and good for the soul. Maybe not always good for the waistline, but definitely good for the soul. And that's what's important, right? Spending time together, eating good food. So until next week, I love you. I love you very much. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Tell somebody else that you love them and you love them very much. They may need to hear it, especially now more than ever. It's gonna put a smile on their face at any rate. It's gonna make you feel good. Probably put a smile on your face too. Make one of these. Yeah, one of these Snickerdoodle cakes. Yeah, whether you put the cream of tartar in it or not. They're going to just love it. They're gonna feel the love that you have for them in every bite, every slice. Evening of conversation, guaranteed. Have a cup of coffee with it after dinner. You know, you won't go wrong, I promise. I love you. I'll see you next week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.